His hands are soaked in blood, but not the blood of war, not the blood of an enemy. It's his son's. The heir to the throne lies lifeless in his arms. And Ivan, Tsar of all Russia, is no longer a ruler in this moment. He is simply a father, broken beyond repair. Look at his eyes, wide, frozen, as if even he can't believe what he's done. His lips are trembling, whispering to a god who no longer listens. Rage came, sudden, blinding, and then it left, leaving only silence. A silence more terrifying than any war or scream. I killed my son. But no one hears him, no one but this painting. And even now, more than a century later, it still hasn't stopped screaming.
There are paintings that whisper, others that gently weep, but this one screams. Ivan the Terrible and his son, painted in 1885 by Russian artist Ilya Repin, is not simply a work of art. It is a tragedy, frozen in oil, a moment of madness, captured at its most violent, most human, most unrelenting form. The room is silent, but your ears ring. The canvas is still, yet your heart races. At the center of this chaos lies a man, his face wide-eyed, pale, twisted with horror. His hands cling to the limp body of a younger man, blood streaming from a gash in his skull. One is Ivan IV, Tsar of Russia, the other is his son, his heir, and what we are witnessing is not just sorrow, it is a father holding his greatest mistake. The painting freezes time at the very second when the rage has passed, and all that remains is the unrelenting weight of what cannot be undone. Ivan's hands are red, not just with paint, not just with blood, but with guilt. His face says what words cannot. What have I done? His mouth doesn't move. But the scream, it's deafening. Let's step back for a moment. Who was Ivan IV? Why would a father strike down his own son? And why did this single moment haunt an empire for centuries? The answers lie not just in the paint, but in the history behind the brush. Before we judge his hands, we must understand the man. Ivan IV, known to the world as Ivan the Terrible, was not born into peace. He was born into shadows. At the age of 3, he became Grand Prince of Moscow. At 8, he watched his mother die, poisoned by the very people who were meant to protect him. What followed was not childhood, it was survival. Noble families fought for control, beat him, mocked him, isolated him. And so he learned early, love is fragile, power is necessary, trust is dangerous. At 16, he crowned himself the first Tsar of all Russia, not king, not prince, Tsar, an absolute ruler. He believed he ruled not by politics, but by divine right. He was chosen, set apart. And as years passed, paranoia grew inside him like rot under stone. When his beloved wife Anastasia died, he was convinced she too had been poisoned. The grief broke something in him, something never came back. He turned on his advisors, on the nobles, on the church, on the people. He created the Oprichniki, a secret police in black robes who rode black horses and carried severed dog heads. They didn't just kill, they terrorized, they made examples, they made fear a religion, and yet, even monsters can love. Ivan had several children, but one above all, his eldest son, the Tsarevich, the future of the empire, strong, charismatic, popular. Everything his father once was, and could never be again. But to a man sinking into madness, love is just another form of fear. He feared his son's ambition, his independence. Was he becoming a threat? Was he trying to take power early? Or maybe Ivan simply saw in his son the man he once was, before the blood, before the fear, before the crown. A mirror too painful to face. It happened in November of 1581, a moment so violent, so final, that it would fracture an empire. The Tsarevich, Ivan's eldest son, had entered his father's chamber. A confrontation had already begun days earlier. It started with his pregnant wife. Ivan, furious over her clothing, struck her in the stomach, causing her to miscarry. His son, enraged, stood up to him. Words were exchanged, accusations, yelling. But now, father and son stood face to face again, and Ivan, still burning with fury, still drowning in suspicion, could not stop himself. He raised his staff and struck. Hard. The blow landed on his son's temple. A loud, sickening crack. The Tsarevich collapsed. Blood pooled beneath his head. Silence, not from reverence, from shock. Ivan froze, his eyes wide, his mouth open, his body trembling. He fell to the ground, wrapped his arms around his son. "Forgive me," he whispered. "Please, don't die." But the blood would not stop, and the life drained from his son's eyes. For hours Ivan cradled him, the man who ruled by fear, now weeping like a broken child. He screamed, not at God, not at the world, at himself. No generals could fix it, no power could undo it. In that single strike, Ivan destroyed his legacy and the future of his empire. A man who had buried his enemies had now buried his blood, and Russia would never be the same again. In the days that followed, the palace was silent. No bells rang, no announcements were made. Russia had lost its future, and it didn't even know it yet. The Tsarevich was buried quietly, without celebration, without succession. The heir was dead, and with him, so was the empire's stability. Ivan wandered the halls, a shadow of a ruler, a man more ghost than czar. Those who once feared him now feared what he might become. He spoke less, slept less, trusted no one. They say he kept the blood-stained robes, that he stared at them for hours, that he muttered to himself, "I didn't mean to. He made me." It was God's test. The power that had once made him mighty now isolated him, and the people, they felt it. The fear remained, but the direction was gone. Ivan ruled through paranoia, lashing out at shadows, suspecting betrayal where there was none, executing those closest to him. Even his remaining sons feared to speak in his presence. Foreign powers began circling. The Polish, the Swedes, the Crimean Khanate. Without a clear heir, Russia appeared weak, vulnerable, open, and yet no one dared remove him. The people did not love him, they obeyed him. And when obedience is rooted in terror, no one dares whisper the truth, that the man on the throne is already gone. Ivan ruled for 3 more years, but he was no longer truly ruling, not with vision, not with purpose, but out of habit, out of dread, out of inertia. Until finally, in 1584, he collapsed during a game of chess, and never rose again. The empire mourned, or perhaps it simply exhaled. The year was 1883. Nearly 300 years had passed since Ivan raised his hand against his son. Russia had changed, or so it believed, and yet, one man still saw a wound that never healed. His name was Ilya Repin, a master of Russian realism, an artist obsessed with truth, Not the clean, noble kind, but the kind that bleeds. For 2 years he studied, he read documents, he visited monasteries. He traced the life of the Tsar, he painted and repainted. Ivan's face alone was said to have taken 3 years. He didn't paint Ivan as a villain or a monster. He painted him as something far more terrifying, a man who had done the unthinkable and could never take it back. When the painting was first unveiled, it shocked the public. The eyes, that's what everyone remembered. Ivan's face, wide-eyed, broken, forever locked in that second of unbearable truth. Some wept. Others turned away. One man took a knife and slashed the canvas. Twice. Tsar Alexander III was so disturbed by the image that he banned the painting from public view. It was too much, too raw, too close to the bone. He ordered it removed, hidden, out of sight, out of memory. But memory doesn't work that way. The image had already burned itself into the soul of a nation. A scream on canvas, a father's regret, a son's silence, a history that could not be erased. Why does this painting still haunt us? Why do we keep looking at it, even when it hurts? Maybe because we see something familiar, not just in Ivan, but in ourselves. Who among us hasn't said words we regret? Who hasn't let anger speak first and shame come later? Ivan's mistake was final, irreversible. But the emotions that led to it, they're human. The painting holds up a mirror. Not to power, not to history, but to impulse. That 1 second where everything breaks and nothing can ever go back. Look at his eyes. That is not the face of a tyrant. That is the face of a father who would give anything to undo a single breath. Art doesn't always exist to comfort us. Sometimes it exists to punish us, to remind us. that cruelty is not always cold, sometimes it cries afterward. So we look, again and again, at a father who failed, at a son who didn't deserve it, at a history that cannot speak, but still, somehow, we hear it. A scream on canvas, frozen forever. And yet, it never stops. And if this story stayed with you, if the silence of that painting echoed in you, then stay with us. Subscribe for more forgotten truths, broken empires, and the art that remembers what history wants to forget.